Let me get my stuff ready. Okay. Hi, my name is Kaide, and what you're watching now is Road to Infinity, or more specifically, Road 36 to Infinity, where you get to follow me on my path of practice as I'm diving deeper into what I call the art of practice. And yeah, all in all, you get to follow me as I try to find out what my true potential is. And hopefully throughout my journey, some of this might be insightful for you as you're in your own process figuring out what your true potential is. That's it. Without further ado, let's just jump straight into it. Since I last left you, there's been 2 weeks. I'm in the middle of a creation process, so last weeks have been just focused on a performance that I'm part of, which is called Trio Number 1. And as I'm recording this video, today is the tryout. So later today, I'll be performing for the first time for a full audience. And then tomorrow would be the premiere, which I'm excited for, but that's for a different video. The first week that I'm gonna recap is the end of November, beginning of December. This week was so it's a trio. So one of the dancers got injured and had to unfortunately step out of this process. Automatically creates a bit of chaos because you've been working for a certain period with a specific constellation of 3 people, and we're very dependent of each other in this performance. And as soon as this person got injured, shit, what do we do? In this specific process, I'm just the dancer, so the main load of stress landed a lot on our choreographer, which is Alessia, for her to find a quick solution, like what to do and who to ask to fill in these shoes. Long story short, she reached out to a person named Noel, who had the opportunity or had the possibility to jump in on such short notice, learn everything that we had done up till this point, which basically was the whole performance. So that was a 20-minute piece that Noel learned during this weekend. And this week was, basically that. Having a new team, a new constellation of people. For one person is learning everything from scratch, an opportunity for me to really learn the material. Because I also had to be a person that Alessia in this case could rely on and trust that I had the performance under control and that I could be of help. I'm always impressed by people that can jump in the middle of a process, learn everything they need to learn in order to have this performance being able to continue. So big up to Noel for doing that. Anybody out there, whoever gets these opportunities, I have a lot of respect for you. It's one thing to be in a process from the beginning to the end and going through all the trial and errors and figuring things out, but when you jump in the middle of a process, catch up on everything that has been, having a very flexible mind and just being very adaptable, being like a little machine, especially as dancers and working in performances, things can happen. We are very physical, so the likelihood of somebody getting injured along the process, it's there. So for dancers that work within performances and are able to just be able to substitute somebody, that's very impressive. Very an important skill is required. So that was this week, apart from us having had an open studio this week, which basically means that people are invited to come into our rehearsal or to our space and check us out. We had this as an opportunity to present what we had for a live audience and then ask them for feedback. We basically, at this point, we had somewhat of a finished product, and then with Noel learning a bunch of new material. So as a constellation, this was the first time that we get to present something for people. It went well. It was just also nice to just hear a bit what people's first impressions were. In Tilburg, in Holland, is that true? Actually, let me check that now. Yeah. Oh, Yes, I went to Fontes to teach. I was asked to be a guest teacher. I really enjoy sharing. I think that's pretty something that every time I talk about teaching, it is always followed by that sentence. I enjoy sharing. What was fun about this guest class or this workshop that I had with them was that not only was that another opportunity for me to jump into me sharing my practice, which is again the Leviathan flow, also how I find it to be a very, I don't want to just use nice, but a very helpful introduction later into house, because through Leviathan flow, I have an opportunity to allow the students really just get familiar with their bodies and how they can use it, and also in the space of improvisation. So already entering a space where they are already in a state of making choices and involving the entire body. And then with that introduction to then jump into house, I find it to be a very nice 2-in-1 type of class, where opening up a space of creativity for like how you can use your body and apply it to then, in this case, house. So it was a very nice class. I also had a little theory class with the students where I talked about the art of practice, but more specifically focused on organizing and structuring your practice. Through me sharing how I am doing it and through the programs or apps that I'm using to do so, it was nice to just be able to share that with the students and give them an idea of what possibilities there are. And of course, the way I am doing it is just a way of endless amounts. But it was nice to then have this class and then have a space for questions and any doubts or any struggles that the students have, and for me to be able to, through my own experience, share it with them and hopefully giving them more options, and hopefully also for them to become more motivated to practice. This whole topic of practice is something that I really am very passionate about, so I'm hoping that in the future that this is something I'll be able to do more, so to have physical classes as well as theory classes about how to practice. So that was the first week. The second week, as I was about to enter this week, I had so much ambition to like, okay, now I have a couple of days off. I can really just dive into my own practice. So yeah, you can imagine, I have a couple of days off, super excited. I got sick and I basically spent the days trying to rest and my physical practice, my dance practice to a bare minimum. If anything, in a way, it was the perfect timing because I had days off. I had this space to get sick and then just recover. And by then, so Saturday, Sunday were my getting back to normal in order for me to then jump into the last phase, which would be this week. And in terms of rehearsal, like the performance at this point was done. We had a beginning to an end. For every time we had the chance to do a run of the performance, Alessia would film it, she would then watch it. The next rehearsals would be like, okay, let's now try this and this, do little changes here and there to always just fine tune the performance to improve it every time. That's pretty much it. That's the recap of my 2 weeks. What I do want to share, because this is a period where I don't have so much time for myself in terms of my practice. But this is something that I really do want to figure out, because a lot of you that are busy with your practice most likely have some type of work that requires your time and focus and will limit the amount of time and focus that you have for your own goals and achievements. What has worked for me so far is that because I've structured my practice, every practice I go into has something that I start with and something that I end with. And everything is broken down into time. This is how I've chosen to set up my practice. I have chosen the X amount of exercises that I want to do, and I have a build-up, so I know that this is a nice way to start. I have made them fit within a time frame, which the long ideal version would be roughly an hour and a half. And then the stressed or the short version, 45-50 minutes. In order for it to fit within this time frame, each exercise is given X amount of minutes before I go on to the next. And this way of practicing, I find it very beneficial, because when I then have a period like I do now, where I don't have as much time for practice as I would like to, I can then look at my training schedule and I can then pick. So when I get to rehearsals, if the rehearsal would start with me being given 15 minutes or half an hour of warm-up, I can also make sure that I'm there maybe 15 or a half an hour earlier, so then I would have more time to practice. I then know, because my practice is so structured and with time, I can now quickly, because I know my practice, I can quickly pick certain exercises that I then will do. Because I have so little time, I won't be able to go through the entire practice. Since this is the warm-up before the rehearsal, I know that this first half of my practice is perfect, and this first half is divided into 2 parts. So I can then just start with the first part. I go through each exercise. I don't stress it. I just minimize the amount of time. By the time I'm done, I then have to jump into rehearsal. And then I can also be happy with myself with the fact that I was able to touch on my practice, which allows me to be consistent, even if it's not a lot or the whole practice. Like I've mentioned before, something is better than nothing. If I then have another break, that's another opportunity for me to try something, or, I mean, obviously needing to rest. But if I got to do half of my practice as part of the warm-up, so by the time I then finish rehearsal, I can then take time to just do the second half. Probably still warm, my body is still active. Okay, so before I cool down, let me just finish off with this latter part, and then that would be almost a perfect practice, because then I can check off the complete. But if I don't by any chance have any energy to do that, at least I touched on the practice today. And that in itself is what's important. Any bonus time or any additional energy that we have that allows us to continue with our practice, again, that's bonus. That's the extra mile that if we can, amazing. If we can't, we've at least done a bare minimum. Instead of then, let's say, being in this rehearsal period, not being able to touch, or feeling that you're not able to touch on the practice at all until the whole rehearsal period is done. And that might be maybe a month later. So then this might also be hard on you, feeling like, oh shit, I haven't practiced for a month, which is not completely true, but you haven't done your practice in a month. And then it affects you mentally, and your motivation maybe. Perhaps it's harder to, even when you are available in terms of time, to jump back into your practice. It's maybe hard to find that rhythm again. But on the other hand, if you do manage to even touch a little bit here and there throughout the process, then when you are given your time to finally fully dedicate yourself and your time to your practice, then it's just minor adjustments that need to be done. So far that's a solution that I have. So if you have work, if you manage to organize and have an overview of how it is you want to practice for a period, if this is clear, it is easier, like Lego, to just take apart the pieces and then rearrange them however you see fit. Something that is also important to point out, or that I want to point out, is that during my Road to Infinity year, I have decided for a so-called daily movement habit. And this is something I'll go in deeper in one of my Art of Practice videos, so stay tuned for that. The daily movement habit is something that I pick for my practice that I think will benefit me specifically, and that is something that I commit to daily. So this one thing is the only thing that is non-negotiable. In my case, I start my day by doing this movement habit, and I really, really try to make this happen every day. So that's the one thing that for sure will remain consistent. Whereas the other part of the practice might be a little bit scattered, might be a little bit like on and off, but consistent. But the daily movement habit is the one commitment that I've decided that will happen no matter what. So I hope that this makes sense, and hopefully this is helpful for you as you're figuring out your practice. And if you have questions on how to structure your practice, let me know in the comments below, and I would love to make a video about that, or to speak on how I am doing it specifically. But if you have any questions regarding structuring your practice, let me know in the comments below. That is basically it for this week. So it's another video check. And as always, if there's anything you want me to touch on that maybe I'll be able to talk more about in the Art of Practice videos that I do, let me know in the comments below. Just anything, for any feedback, anything is highly appreciated. Yeah, I'm really hoping that things are going well for you. Time is ticking in terms of this year. So this year is getting close to an end. We're almost halfway December. So maybe this is a time for you, or for all of us, to just take a look at this whole year, how it's been. Have you been able to work consistently towards something, or have you had your ups and downs? And to see what are the changes you would like to see happen in your practice. What are the steps you think you need to take in order to get closer to your potential, your full potential, and wrap this year up, and then to look forward to the coming year, because the coming year is another opportunity to make choices that you think will align the best with your ambitions. For me, the new year will be, not really, but it's somewhere the halfway mark, where like, okay, how are things looking? Like, how is this Road 36 to Infinity looking so far? What are the changes I want to make? I do feel like there are some slight changes I want to make, but it's like minor. But things that I'm noticing, okay, this I would like to see different. This is not working as I would like it to. But this is also an opportunity for me to then look back at the year and completely, and also see the bigger picture. Like, what have I managed to achieve during this year? So yes, I have certain ambitions, certain goals, but I'm well on my way. And to take an opportunity to take a breather and be like, okay, and look at what I have done, and also to appreciate every ups and downs, because every up and down is shaping your path and the direction that you're taking, and then that all the ups and downs have led me to where I am right now. And this place is something I'm very grateful for. I'm very grateful that I can share with you the way I'm doing. I'm happy to do this, and I'm hoping that you are benefiting from watching these videos. I can't wait for this, for the next year to start, because there are some things I'm very, very excited for, and that is something I want to talk more about, which I will then do for my next Road to Infinity video, which potentially might be the last one for this year. Yeah. Having said that, let's continue seeing what our true potential is. Keep enjoying your practice, and I'll see you in the next video. Hello, hi. Today's task is gonna be mid-level. So the reason why I picked a chair is so that I have a point of reference. I wanna think that I'm sitting, and then that I move away from it, and that it's about the same height. And this is the position where I wanna improvise and freestyle. And anytime I'm not sure, or if I notice that I'm not upright, but I'm like in between, if there's a big difference, then you have the chair to, remind you to come down and to freestyle. And you can use circles that we've done, the waves, and also footwork. And it's gonna burn. There's no avoiding it. But what I want you to be pay attention to is also your posture. So imagining that if you would be sitting, you want to be having your body upright and not like this. When you're down, you want to move and think as much as possible that your body is upright. versus this here, and you're just looking at the floor, especially when we get tired. But try to keep the body upright.